Okay.
Hello.
Shepherd's Hound. Len, hello.
Hello.
Welcome in. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
So, Shepherd's Hound, you've been in the community for a little bit, ever since we did that interview series with Amanusis on Game
Yeah.
Jam Games. So, for those of you who are around for that, Shepherd's Hound, you made, and correct my pronunciation here, uh,
Wisconsin.
Woskodanash. Am I getting that kind of right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Woskodanash, which was an awesome title. I thought it was just full of charm and heart. And we got to chatting after that about a lot of your very prodigious work experience in terms of nonprofits and helping indie studios get funded. Uh,
Yeah.
and since then, you've been talking about your volunteer experience for work with Indies Discord and game festivals and everything. And I thought, this is a cool person that has a lot of knowledge to impart. I think people would like to learn from them. And I said, would you mind giving us some of your time? And you said yes. So thank you. And thank you for following through.
Absolutely no worries. I love chatting with people.
Well, this is great. Shepherd Sound, would you mind kind of giving us a brief introduction into... Let's start off with the funding for studios, because I think that's something that a lot of people are very interested in. Could you talk to us about how you got started in that process of helping studios obtain funding through government grants?
Sure. So, hello, I am Len. In terms of other things that I do, in terms of how I got here, I am the former executive director of an arts not-for-profit called Hand-Eye Society, which is the oldest arts video game not-for-profit in the world. We checked, we asked
Wow.
everyone, and that is true. Um,
Wow.
so we ran a program with Ontario Creates, which is a non-recoupable fund that the province of Ontario runs, where essentially they will match whatever funding you bring to the table
Oh.
by 50%. So they'll double it as long as it is spent within the province. So
Okay.
that program has a requirement of 3 years of industry experience of someone on the team. And so the program that we ran was a business accelerator for folks who did not have that experience. So it was 7 weeks of like, what do your contracts look like? What do your budgets look like? Where can you access funding that's like not necessarily here? How do you make a publishing deal? Why do you need insurance? You definitely do. Why do you need to speak to a lawyer? Because you definitely do. So that was critiques and feedback, and then like industry talks with people.
That's fascinating. So, you said you were executive director of one of the oldest
Yes.
nonprofits for video games in the world. How did you get to that point? What was that story? Did you just walk in the door one day and said, "Hey, I'm the executive
So
director now"?
I did well, I mean, that would have been really funny, but I don't think they would have accepted. Um, I made a game for a party. So they have something which is called it was called the Fancy Video Game Ball, and then it was the Hand Eye Society Ball. But essentially, what it is just like we ran 3 festivals a year, and so there was Comic Six Games, which is run concurrently with TCAF, which is the Toronto Comics Arts Festival. Wordplay, which focused on interactive narratives, and the ball, which was alternative controllers and multiplayer games and things like that. So I was hired with some folks to do a metagame. So essentially, like a game that ran on top of the party, where it's in the Masonic Temple. So we made a game called the AGM, which was the Annual General Mischief. So we got to sit around a giant board table in the Masonic Temple, and we voted on the constructs of reality. Um, and that was sort of how I was introduced to Hand Eye as an organization. The previous sort of the Toronto Comics and Arts Festival, I worked with for 10 years. I was there one day and I started picking up tables as they were tearing down, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to work at cons for us?" And I was like, "Sure." So
Wow. So you were
I,
just like
yeah,
helping out of your own free will and volition. That wasn't a volunteer effort. It was just like, hey, like chairs need to get put up, and then they just approached
for that,
you.
yeah, yeah. And I did work for them for 10 years.
Wow, that's fascinating. Okay, so that that's a fascinating story, and really, I think that lines up with a lot of what you hear in how people get started in non-traditional industries, is they were just in the right place. So like, I think that's the big thing I'm taking away from this is be in the places that are going to lead to things you would be interested in, right?
And I think like it, this is one of those discussions that gets a little bit dicey, but like that showing up and volunteering your time, if strategically done, is, I think, good. Though that is very much a double-edged sword, and take that advice with like a pound of salt, because it also leads you to being deeply exploited in different industries, whether or not like that is for profit, not for profit, like any type of organization. Be careful of your time. You can do volunteership to get places, but you should also understand exactly what you want out of that.
I can't agree more. That word strategic is very important, right? Of it's really good. It can give you connections, it can get you networking, it can do all sorts of things for you. And you know what? Like just volunteering your time can be very healthy
It's nice,
psychologically for
yeah.
you. But for sure, like if you're not good at setting boundaries and recognizing healthy relationships, maybe work on those skills first.
Yeah, I started there when I was like 17. Those boundaries were not good, and as an adult person, I am perhaps maybe much better at them. Would not say that that 10 years was fully thumbs up the entire time, but lots of nice folks. But
I
yeah, figuring out what your boundaries are and making sure that like ultimately your end goal is being served by that volunteership, I think is really important.
yeah, I'm sure that you have quite a few stories to tell. Based on your time there. I've worked for a number of small organizations myself, and it's always every day is a roll of the dice in many ways.
Yeah.
So we've got a question in chat here. Sockhouse Studios asked,
Mhm.
"What determines spent in province? Does that mean the vendor has to be located in the province?"
Or majority owned by the province. So if it's a person that you are hiring, they need to be have a primary residence in the province. If it is a business that you are hiring, they need to have their uh, location essentially be set in the province. Um, so in terms of like, this is going to be, if you take anything away from the conversation of how to access funding from a body, it is that there are generally grant officers or someone whose job it is to answer your questions. Call them. Like long before you start putting metaphorical pen to paper, because let's be honest, it's a Google Doc that you're typing in, you should find out if you are eligible for that program. And that's what a grant officer is for. Their entire job is to sit at their desk all day, taking your calls and emails, telling you whether or not your project is eligible. They can't tell you if you're going to get money because it is not their job to do judgment. It is entirely just their job to be a resource. So if you have questions on like, does this project make sense for this? Or is this line item applicable to have on my budget? Fully just reach out to them and be like, hey, here's a question that I have. And they will give you the best answer that they can.
That's fascinating. So how do you find out who's the grant officer I should reach out to in order to check that? Like, how do I find their information?
So that will be listed on a page. It'll either be something that you can look at like on that application page itself. It'll usually just say like program officer X, Y, and Z name with likely their email or their extension of whatever corporation you would call for them, whether or not that's an arts council or it's like a government office. Or they'll have a staff directory. And then you just kind of go through and it'll list like this person is in charge of this strategic program. There might be one officer, there might be several officers. You can also just call them and be like, I am looking for someone to answer this question. And they'll connect you to whoever makes the most sense to the operator at that time. Um, but yeah, they will, their entire job is to help you essentially. So that information should be apparent and readily available to you.
Okay, perfect. So then I think maybe the question that should go before that then is how do you find the grants? Like if how do I know what I should even be investigating?
So that in That's unfortunately a lot of the answers to questions are it depends. Um, I think the biggest thing that you need to think about before you start researching folks to reach out to is is this an art project or is this a business project? Because those two different funding streams have vastly different outcomes. And that can be like a deeply personal question. It can just be what is best for the project. But that changes your language in terms of what it is that you are talking about pretty drastically. Like an arts council does not care about return on investment. They're fully uninterested. They're like, okay, we don't really want that. We want you to make a portfolio piece or grow as an artist, like uninterested in you commercializing this with some wiggle room depending on your council. And like business accelerator or like technology grant is not interested in you growing as an artist. They want a recoupment likely, though they might not, depending on what it is. So like your entire philosophy, language structure, and application will flip flop drastically on that. If you want to do an art side of things, that would be your art council. So that would be your municipal, if you're in Canada, your provincial or national arts council. That will be similar based off of where you are geographically, internationally. For other things, this might be a university, so or a museum. That's far more common in the States. There's also like private grants that folks will do. So to speak candidly, Hand I did something that was similar to that, where we would run short programs where essentially like what we would use is an artist fee where you can't see the quotations that I am giving, but assume there are quotations around artist fee. But where it's like sort of a very small grant, where it's sort of like, here is a bit of money to make this game. Uh, Arts funding is never going to be as substantial as commercial based funding simply because, again, that outcome is really intentionally very different in terms of what they want from you. They want to make sure that your rent is paid and that you can receive food. But no arts program is ever going to be able to drop 6, 8 figures on something. They're going to struggle even with six. Like you'd have to be pretty far along, um, especially since games is a little bit of a tough argument for a lot of arts councils.
Now,
But in
Len, I'd like to interrupt you there if I may.
yeah,
You said it would be a tough sell unless you're really far along in the project. So does having more of a product?
not far along in the project, far along as a person, like in an arts
Gotcha.
career.
So I
So
am a renowned artist and you really
mhm.
want to sponsor me versus I'm going to school right now.
So there's usually three, sometimes two categories that an arts council will break people up to, which is early career, mid career, and established career artist. An early career artist will be someone who has one or less works. A mid career will be between two and usually five. And an established artist is someone who has five or more projects. So that will generally have a budget cap for you. So they're not, if you're like, I've never made an art before, they're not going to give you $20,000, they might give you a couple hundred to a couple thousand. But if you're in that sort of range in which you're like, I have this long-term career where I've worked with like multiple game companies or like I've done all these festivals, I have all these projects, they'll open up a larger amount of funding to you.
That is fascinating. Thank you. I just want to give everyone a heads up. We've got about 2 minutes before the next ad starts in. We will break. We won't. We won't talk
I'll
during
say
the ad
all the
break.
important things during the ad.
S- yeah, but the microphone will be off. Like there won't be any. No one's gonna hear it. But all the important stuff will be said. Uh, so how many studios do you think you've helped secure funding like this over your time?
So we ran the program. I took part in it for 6 years. And that was between 6 and 7 studios a year. So
Wow. So like 40 plus studios.
I will not say they all became studios, though. That is the thing. I did a
Okay.
retrospective. This was very fascinating to me because I went back to the province and I was like, was this program impactful? Because obviously both of us want to know that. Is this helping people start studios? And is this getting people through programs to use this government body to access funding? And fascinatingly, uh, while many of them started studios, it was a lot of folks realizing that they weren't there yet and that they weren't ready to have a business or make that game, which, like, to
Wow.
me is still a huge success story because a starting a company is a lot of money and a lot of time. And so getting to the point in the process of doing so and being like, I might actually need more information, or I might need to get funding from like some seed funding before I do this, or like take a, go to an accelerator or do a like, small business architecture support type of thing. I think is actually a really good thing. Like it's making games is really expensive, and the last thing that, like, at least I philosophically want are folks starting studios being like, "It's fine, I'll remortgage my house," right? Like,
So, okay, we have the ad starting in just a second. I want to dive into this a lot more after the ad break. Okay, can we put a pin on
yeah,
it and come right back into it? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all back here in just a few minutes. Save up your questions. Feel free to throw them in chat. Shepherdtown is a wealth of experience. You don't want to not get your questions in. So thank you so much, Shepherdtown, once again for being here. Len, thank you, and we'll be back in just a
yeah,
minute. Right, we are back. Thank you so much for sticking around. This has been an amazing conversation.
yeah.
We're gonna have thanks OBS. Goodness. All right, there we go. How long is this interview planned to go? We're gonna go for the next about 10 minutes. So we want to make sure we get the last little juicy bits out before our fine guest has to leave. And if people really want more time with Len, reach out and let us know, and maybe we can convince Len to come back on another day. Because we
You're
haven't even started.
also
Huh?
I was also gonna say, you are free to ping me, um, if you have questions. Also, if I can do a plug.
Yes. Do your plug right now, and then we'll do another one at the very end. And please, as well, if you're gonna say ping me, would you mind like sharing your Discord name so that people can find you?
It is the same as my Twitch name. So the Shepherd Sound. But my plug is that we started selling this as a service for Kitten Cup Studio. If you do want to hire me as a grant writer, you can at creative@kittencupstudio.com. That's my plug.
Whoa! I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yes, this was a very new decision that we made as service work.
Very cool, very cool. I can't wait to hear how that goes. That's fascinating. Now we only have a few minutes left.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure we're getting to some of these questions that are coming up in chat. So, the very first one that you kind of answered was from Risky Biscuit asking, can individual developers secure some of this funding, or does it have to be in a studio type sort of environment? What are the restrictions there?
So that is something that, like, most grants would want to assume that you are a corporation. You can be a sole proprietorship. You do not need to necessarily be like multiple people. They just want to know that like you are a corporation.
Can you tell me why that is? Why is that an important measure for them?
Well, usually for things like insurance and taxes, you kind of need those to be uh, someone who receives money that isn't like privately, what would you be like responsible for bearing the burden of that cost.
Okay.
It's the same sort of like reasoning between generally if you are a contractor, you should set yourself up as a sole proprietorship simply because if that sole proprietorship goes bankrupt, you personally don't necessarily go bankrupt. So it's a lot more secure for everyone involved if there's large amounts of money going in if you deal with a corporation. Because a corporation can declare bankruptcy in not the same way that you personally are responsible for bankruptcy.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Very helpful. Thank you. Next up, we have Kay Hadao, who has asked, would you recommend working as a developer for another studio before trying your hand at an indie studio? Also, does this give you more credibility when pitching your idea?
I would say there's a couple of questions here, so I will give a couple of answers. Um, One, I think learning in a studio environment can be really helpful. You will have issues trying to be a junior and getting hired, though. That is just unfortunately part of industry things. I will also say, if you want to come to work with indies, it is something that we talk about a lot in terms of networking. Um,
That's,
any
by the
sort
way,
of like,
that's
yeah.
workwithindies.com, and they have a Discord as well. So go check them out.
Um,
Wait, is it
and in terms
.com?
of, mm, I think
Google
so.
work with indies. Just Google it. You'll find it.
Yeah. Um, in terms of like credibility, so a large thing with accessing funding, whether or not that's like private funding, government funding, or artistic funding, is sort of like confidence building. So, the advice that I have now taken from Mark Dara, because I think it's really lovely, is shipped is the best feature. So even if it is a like jam game or something that you've released on Steam, as long as it is something that like doesn't obviously show up as a red flag as a product, the fact that it is out there and actually published is usually far more valuable to folks than a hypothetical. You could have the most beautiful game design document, you could have like an awesome idea, but until you've sort of like gone out and started shipping things, it's a lot harder to convince people that like you have the confidence to take on that much money. A really quick piece of advice that I think is really good for folks to be doing constantly, particularly if you're starting in jams, is to track your time. So if let's say you do a 72-hour like weekend jam, it's you and three people, you each work about, you know, let's say 36 hours, and you're paying yourselves a reasonable living wage. So that's 108 hours, and we'll say you're paid $25 each an hour. That means that your 32 or your 72-hour game is $2,700. And like starting to build up an idea of how much it costs you to make a game is going to make it so when you do go into something like a pitching deal, you have like pretty concrete metrics to be like, okay, we have made something of a similar size in a similar amount of time, and this is how much that would cost.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Thank you for that. Um, Unfortunately, Len, we're nearing the end of our time here. You also wanted to plug something else when I asked you earlier today. Is that right?
Yes, can I quickly reply to one of the questions that was
Please,
posted?
please do.
So, not living in my country of origin probably also limits me from accessing money that I could touch. Yes, but um, there will be things that you can access. They will obviously be smaller amounts because largely the governmental funding or support that is region specific has to do with regional economy. But it doesn't mean that there aren't like international versions of support. You can look at incubators, there's accelerators, there's lots of sort of like smaller private non-region locked access to funds. There was like, I know that Astra ran one. I can get a whole list if I am not on the spot trying to like list them because this is a quick answer. But yes, you can find things that are not going to be region locked from you, just to be clear.
Perfect. Thank you for answering that. I appreciate that. Uh, Now, would you like to talk about your game now?
Yeah, we released our debut game as Kitten Cup Studio, which is a studio that I helped found, which is called Pico, that is currently in early access. It's a fun little game about making tea for cats, and the cats are sad. But yeah,
That's great. And I will add, I didn't know about this, and it has 71
yeah,
very positive reviews on Steam. So it's not just like some little thing that's been shipped out. It's like quality and talent has gone into this.
yeah. It started as an after university project, so we technically started it in 2018 and incorporated in 2020. And our seed funding, if you are in Canada, came from Ubisoft. They run the Indie series, which is there's a two-tiered um, prize pool, which is a $25,000 and a $50,000 prize for companies that apply and win. So we won the secondary prize, and we used that seed funding to then start the studio.
That's super cool. Congratulations. And congratulations on getting into early access and on all the great reviews. I'm sure I'm going to be picking it up soon, and it looks just adorable. And you could tell the heart is getting poured into it. So thank you for sharing that with us all.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Len, thank you so much. Once again, if people want to reach out to you, they can reach out to you over on Discord. It's That Shepherd's Hound. Same name as in here. They're also in our Discord on Foxella Games. You can find the links down below or type ! Discord in order to join that. In case you can't find them, you can join our Discord and they'll be in the list and you can go find them. This has been just such a joy and a pleasure. Len, I have learned a ton. Thank you so much. I think other people here in the chat are saying that they've been having a good time. So thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure we'll be chatting a whole lot in the future.
Yeah. If anyone here gonna go to GDC, come hang out. We'll go walk around at GDC.
Don't get doxxed.
Don't get doxxed. Thanks, GDC.
Yeah. Right on. All right. Well, we'll talk to you later, Shepherdstown. Thank you, Len, for being here.
All right.
All right.
Bye, folks.
See ya.